How about my dearest YouTube friends? Today we are in a new video, a new definitive guide to the No Gauntlet of the Grandmaster 2.0. Let's remember that it is the ordeal in which it can only be done by 7-star characters, and in this case, in this video, I am going to explain how to do the fights, the counters that these fights have, and the best teams to be able to do them without the least possible expense. Okay folks, then. In this case, I have a pretty good Excel that you are going to see below and that you also have in the description of the video in case you want to stop by and watch it. And well, I also have to tell you that the truth is that it comes with some pretty stupid prices, such as that 7-star Nexus, those 5,000 stretches for the random awakening crystal of the gem when awakening from 7-4 alphas of degree 4, an essence of light that is very important to get the next character and idol, a titan crystal in Nexus, a basic of degree, and therefore you are going to be able to get the next rank 4 in a free-to-play way, 10 chips to be able to get more experience, and a new title that is called the Best of the Great Master. I also have to tell you that I have this one at a discount. You have this broadcast in the description at quite reduced prices and with the lowest possible expense. So if we move on to Excel to explain all the fights little by little. Okay friends, since we are already in Excel, which I remind you is in the video description, well, in this case we are going to do the analysis. What are the best counters? The first character we are seeing is Dr. Doom, who in this case has a series of nodes such as Bubble Shield, Particle Protector, Micro Reflection, and Size Matters. The important thing about doing this fight is that we can only use characters that are XL to be able to hit the character Dr. Doom, and in this case the damage does not divert us. Don't cause us that damage or beast that the character has. You also have to be very careful about blocking Dr. Doom's hits 10 times, because in the 10th he will become unblockable and may be doing us a lot of damage. Okay, it's a pretty easy fight. The only thing you have to take into account, because using XL champions, we can also use L champions that can simply work with strong blows and super attacks. That's why the counters that I said are good, that I have seen that they are better for this fight, well, basic. Surely they are Sloud, which is the one I have done it with, Classic Hulk by having that size, actually Mr. Sinister by being the light size with strong blows. We can leave those disadvantages of bleeding in us and the pain in Dr. Dunn, therefore it would come out in a simple way. Then friends, we have the second character who is Terras, which is a little complicated because we remember that he has the power nodes of the distance, that once you leave the fighting distance of Terras, well, it may be bothering us a lot because it is going to gain that copiopoder improvement, apart from the fact that it has to energize and has galactic intervention. How do we deal with it? Well, basically by gaining a lot of power. Terras, which is always throwing his rock field, if you are close it will inflict that direct damage corresponding to the abilities that Terras has, but also, like I said, if you go too far away he will get power copy, so you can't stay away all the time. So you have to find that middle ground so you can pop this Terra X. Atom, what are the best counters? Well, Onslaught with Beneficiaria, because in the end you take away that own power and you can develop it more quickly. We have accused her to take away all the advantages she has. That Quo can also work quite well for us, and Mr. Sinister as a last option. Okay, they're not ordered. Okay, so you can use any of these characters. The next fight on the first line, since we have Classic Vision, the new ones they have are Power Binding, Progressive Revenge, and Minor Aspect of Death. And the fight is very simple. The only thing you have to be very careful, because Vision will throw his super attacks in order. First he will throw super attack 1, then super attack 2, and then at the end super attack 3, and it is the worst. It comes here that if one of these super attacks hits us, it is an instant death due to this node of lesser aspect of death. Therefore, we have to bring a character who provokes him, so that in this case he will throw the super attacks at us. In this case, the best I have seen to give this Classic Vision is Full. Classic Seahole Daedals, because I can give you provocation, even Seahole that I have not given, and the Zydeman is due to the massive damage that the character has. Then friends, we leave with another character who is Mode. In this case has many nodes as you are seeing: Hard Life, Vulnerable, Lost, Theft, the Specialist Chair, and Improved Super Attack 1, that let us remember that that will be Unblockable Super Attack 1. So MCoC is a somewhat complicated character of this line. Every time a stop is made it will leave us disoriented. and they reduce our defensive and offensive abilities. Therefore, you must be very careful not to make these stops. In addition, you have to bring a character that stuns to increase our damage, and it has to be passive. In this case, the best characters I have seen to give this A to this mode are Snake and Professor X. Don't worry, because later we will see all the teams. What are the best teams to give this glove? LT, then friends, we have the last fight off. The first line, which is Spider Jam, Energy Balance, Power Bond, Expert Defense, Immunity to Disadvantages. This may be bothering us quite a bit. How do you make this fight so simple? Well, basically, you always have to force Spider Ham to throw Super Attack 1 at you to prevent him from obtaining his Arachnid Charges, because what these Arachnid Charges are going to do is increase the damage apart, it becomes more resistant, and on top of that, it will gain the illusion. Therefore, we don't want that illusion to win because it could be doing us a lot of damage. So what counter should you take for this spill? Ham? Well, characters that prevent him from having that illusion on arrival in case he wears those spider faces. Therefore, Snake can work very well for you, and even here comes a new character that is Venom, who can also serve us, because let's remember that Venom takes away all the advantages of DE. Of excitement to the opponents, if in this case Venus may be working for us because there are several spiders on this glove of the Grandmaster. Then we start, friends, with the second line and start off pretty strong with a character that can be made very difficult for us. We have Weapon X, which the only thing it has is the duration of the improvements, since it has improved them, improvement, recovery, and durability. This fight is simply like fighting calmly with any Weapon X, the normal thing, but the only thing different is that they have the greatest rates of regeneration and their rate cannot be reduced. This is very important, so you need a character that blocks healing, not that reverses it or that has great damage. In addition, you cannot regenerate damage from energy burst. So characters who take energy damage cannot serve very well in this fight. For this reason, the direct counters that this hole in X has are Suri Recess School, Kusala, and Omega Sentinel. In this case, I have to tell you that I gave him Suri. Okay, then friends, we have Lamol, a somewhat castrous character, also a difficult character to be able to counter, because the nodes that have changing sensitivity, bleeding, poison, we remember that with the hemorrhage we can be removing those rocky loads with the super attacks. They have them blockable, and on top of that they have oscillation, which is the only thing that will make the fight super slow. Why? Because basically when you have the advantage of the armor shield, it will be totally passive. What to take advantage of when he has that armor to hit him in the blockade to load his rocky loads. And once he reaches 15, we have to force him when he has the fury improvement to throw his super attack at us so that he can remove those rocky loads and he cannot reach the unstoppable. We can also use a character who gives him weakness to remove that unstoppable. The best counters I have seen for this mole, because they are onslaughts, are Seafull Daedals, Mr. Sinister, and Sanchi, who comes here the first time he appears in this Gauntlet. Or Sakor, another quite castrous character, defensive character by nature. And on top of the nodes they are quite complicated because they have mixing masters that have to alternate attacks, aggressiveness, flow dispersion, and Gaussian deformation. So how do you have to fight? Well, we must alternate the attacks, since if we repeat it, he will avoid us and be able to counterattack us. Icor, although he hits with a pillow as if it were a pillow, and his fist can do us a lot of damage, sorry. In addition, you have to knock it down from time to time with a strong blow, because otherwise we will not be able to do any damage. So here it is very important to have a relic equipped so that we can lean from this as well. We must also take into account that due to the node that Gauss has, the Gauss deformation is going to cause damage in blockage. So we must avoid it leaving us in blockage because it may be doing us a lot of damage. The best counters I have seen, because they are Oload, Mr. Sinister, Megasonic, and Northstar, may also be working quite well for us, which I haven't put. Okay, next fight we have the very powerful Dragon Man, who in this case has the immunity of forgiveness, the immune nodes, stun, evolution aspect, and power bond. And the fight? It becomes somewhat difficult because he is going to have that copy of power that we are not going to be able to eliminate, because let's remember that that copy of power, that burden, can be eliminated with stops. So in order to be able to remove that charge from the power copy and that it doesn't reach Super Attack 3, you basically have to block any hit from Super Attack 1 to remove that charge. You can also avoid loading the power copy with a character that leaves disadvantages of withering or petrifying. Furthermore, the longer the fight with the node lasts, the more he will win. Power and more damage, hence the evolution aspect node. What are the best counters to give this Dragon Man? Well, we have Condenefaria, we have Suri, and we have Full Daedals, which may be working very well for us with that withering. Then we have the last fight of this second line. We have Black Panther R Civil War with a series of nodes that is Armed Assault, Full Lust, and RCY Overload. It's basically a simple fight, okay, but the only thing to keep in mind is that this Black Panther is going to start with the fight in unlockable state, and on top of that, after each super attack you will get that unstoppable illusion. Therefore, we have to bring a character who cancels that illusion, that unstoppable one, because if not, he can make the issue a little more difficult for us. If not, then you have to wait for that unstoppable illusion to end to be able to give it a few taps. In this case, the best counters that I have seen for this Black Panther are Oslo, Serpiente, and Spider Star. Okay, we start with the third line, friends. We start with Unknown, a character that can be complicated for you, so we will see later the nodes that you have, that this one has Talented, Feeling of Blessing, Precision, Feeling of Blessing, Cruelty, and the best defense. So how do we do the fight? He is actually a simple character, but the only thing, you have to force him to take away the illusion. If you can't carry a character like a snake, which we can take away from him with that precise concentration, we have to force him to enter swordsman mode so that he doesn't evade us. That's the only thing to consider with the crawler. That's what the difficulty of that fight comes from, the fact that we have to put it in swordsman mode. So for me, the best counter, because it is a snake, Suri can also work for us, and Mr. Sinister can also work for us. If it works to a large extent, it is worth. Then the next character, we have Spider-Wind Friends, who have the following nodes: Margin of Opportunity with an eye open to the best defense and willpower. The only hard thing about this fight is not being able to make a stop, as the damage will be returned with the eye node with one eye open. So you have to avoid stopping at all costs. And on top of that, you have to play with a character that takes away your enthusiasm. In this case, Snake continues to function to a large extent, and apart from here, Venom is present again. Because it takes all the illusion out of all the spiders in the game. Next character, folks, we have Dominon. In this case, we have the flexibility node that will reduce the stunning disadvantages by X% every time we make a stop, willpower, weaken matador, and power shield. So in this case, we have to take into account, to be able to do the fight, is that the only way we can obtain power is when Dominon throws us his one super attack he has. Apart from the fact that we only have to take into account that our blows will not do damage, only super attacks, therefore here any damage over time may be serving us quite well. That's why I did it with Shuri, but we also have good characters such as Mr. Sinister, Red Skull, and Omega Sentinel. In order to give this Domino the next character, friends, we have Moyo, who is also a complicated character from this third line. The nodes you have is Sponsor Contract, Improved Physical Resistance, and Amazing Beauty, and the only one. Another way to carry out this fight is to try not to carry out mojo missions, which for example can be blocking, going backwards, removing an improvement, so you have to avoid those mojo missions in order to avoid developing it. And here is also the important thing: a character that regenerates or is immune to degeneration or immune medium, because let's remember that there is no complete immune to degeneration. For this very reason, I have used him as a classic Hulk, but we can also use characters like Sigil Daedals as Condenefari. Even our very powerful Suri is okay. Those are the best characters I have seen to give this mojo. And the last fight we have in this third line is Immortal Abomination, that we have Sadistic to return to the sender, Pabalo, Paralyzing, and Under Pressure. This fight is somewhat complex because we must not try to put bleeding disadvantages into it, because otherwise it will give them back to us. In addition, we must always try to get Immortal Abomination to throw Super Attack 1 at us to avoid the abilities he has with the Super. What is that Acid Rain, Acid Burr of Super Attack 2? And in addition, we also have to be careful about moving backwards twice, because it can disorient us and will reduce our defensive and offensive skills. In this case, it is very important to have a character immune to poison, and for that reason, those who... Are you watching the counter screen? Well, they are the ones that shine the most. We have Atanos from less to classic hull, so Holdeldes and Omega Centend are the ones that shine the most in this case. Then friends, we already start with the last line of this gauntlet of the Grandmaster 2.0 of ORDEAL. We begin the fourth line against Apocalypse that we have the nodes of finish them off, genetic refinement, electrical fluctuations, and refrigerant loss. In this case, if we use a robot, we can't use it, okay? But instead of bleeding, it will burn us. Therefore, we have to take into account that if we use a robot such as Omega, I have to put it on, since it also has to be immune to incineration. Furthermore, if we use a character with the hero tag, our Apocalypse will begin to fight fully developed with those 4 efficiency charges and with the ability to stun us and hit us in lockdown several times. In this case, Daden, the fight is quite simple. The only thing you have to do is force him to throw Super Attack 2 at us, which is the easiest to avoid, and leaves us that small gap to be able to hit him. In this case, the counters, well, you are already seeing it, are Suri Red Skull, Omega Sentinel, and Sihal Deldes. We're going for Sasquatch, the second of this fourth line. He has improved recovery, therefore he is going to regenerate a barbarity when his life is almost over. Life cycle, hard life, and power appetizer. The life cycle may also be bothering us. Basically, how do we play? Well, the regeneration at the end of the fight is quite strong, as I told you about that node, and it also has a node, which is the life cycle, which is what can be bothering us a lot since we have to tear it down to deactivate that shield. The more times we do it, the longer that takedown will last, and we can finally knock him out. Other than this, Sasquatch does not take damage from disadvantages due to the life cycle node. If we activate upgrades, be careful because he will also steal them from us and get copy power due to the power appetizer node, so we basically have to use characters that do not gain active upgrades. For this reason, the best counters I have seen for this Sasquatch are Classic Hurt Condenafaria Easy Holderless. Next character, Friends. We face Killmonger. Friends has the power nodes of points, disadvantages, optimized soldier, sharp red claws, and cutting wires. In this case, you need damage effects in time, yes or yes, to be able to gain power. Also, you don't have to use a character with Mina Robot, because unless you can handle the disadvantages of high voltage aside, immunity or bleeding resistance is key in this fight. Why did I put Outlag? Because it's basically a pretty slow but pretty easy fight. Let's remember that with Outlag, we are not going to be gaining power even if we have damage effects over time, but those Neuroshock are going to be doing a lot of damage in Killmonger. That's why I have put it, and I think I am the option that I used in my fight against Killmonger. But Suri may also be serving us very well, and Snake may also be serving us very well. Next character, we have Boy's Friends. He has the remote relationship nodes, power, shield, and bleeding, and poison changing immunity and poisoning, and in this case the fight is quite simple. The only thing to keep in mind is that every time we hit the void opponent, we have to move away to prevent him from leaving us with the weakness disadvantage, that we remember that if he lets us disadvantage this void, it will be taking a lot of life from us, because we also have it because of the remote relationship node. You also have to play with your changing immunity and you won't have any kind of problem. In this case, it is a fairly simple fight that can be done very well with a Snake, with the very powerful Professor X, who has also appeared here. And finally, we have Anne Fury, who is a somewhat complicated character who has the nodes of Lionheart, Vigor, and Kinetic Transfer that basically you can't repeat your second life healing. Apart from that, we have to benefit from that node that has kinetic transfer, so that when it hits us in blockade, it gains that accumulation of power. And in this way, it is easier to reach the super attack 2 of this Nick Fury, which is the easiest to avoid. Here, yes or yes, you have to meet a mutant character to prevent him from carrying his loads of black women. I don't remember what Nick Fury's name is. So basically, the best counters to be able to give this Nick Fury, well, I'm already seeing them, are Oslo, Professor XY, Mr. Sinister. And now, yes, friends, we reach the final boss in this case, since it has a series of nodes and boss phases, and they are summarized here. With phase 1, they are only going to throw super attack 1, and what we have to do is wait for the evolved armor to pass, or we will suffer damage due to bleeding, and on top of that, the automatic block of Thanos Nables will be activated. Besides, in Phase 2, you can only use Thanos in Super Attack 2, and you have to wait for the degeneration to pass or start evading you, and it will turn horribly. And finally, Phase 3, which is the most complicated, not only can Super Attack 3 throw us and we have to intercept it. Good luck with this, because it is quite complicated to intercept it to obtain protection against Super Attack 3, and when it activates, it don't hurt us. But in this case, if you don't have that protection against Super Attack 3, it has a deadly touch. Therefore, as soon as it has Super Attack 3, and you don't have that burden, it's gonna kill you instantly. In reality, this boss can be made with anyone, with any character you have on the team, but in this case, I put my favorites there. They are Shuri and Sihul Dendes. Now, once we have seen all the fights, we are going to go to the possible teams that we have here, and in this case, I have to show you that my team, that what I did with and the truth with minimal expense was Outloud and Snake, which are the most important here in this tour we have. Lastly, we have Anne Fury with Lionheart, Vigor, and Kinetic Transfer nodes. Optimal team includes Classic Hull, Shuri, Unknown, and Snake. Most important are Unknown and Snake. What other equipment have I made for different clients? Well, I have used, for example, Holkadelder with Beneficiary, with Oslo, with Snake, and with Red Skull. In this case, I did not have, for example, Shuri the client. What else? Well, friends, we have Hulk Deadles that we can combine with Omega Sentinel to give, for example, Domino, which comes to mind now, Oslo, Snake, which are the most important. But don't worry that there are also teams where one of them are not there. And finally, Void to leave quite strong disadvantages. Another team that I have also made is Seyol Deadless, Q Sala Onslaught Professor XY Spider Star. On the other hand, not to avoid putting Snake in the next team, friends, well, we have Count Nefaria, we have Seydeldes Mr. Sinister North Star, who I have also tried and I have said well, and I have discovered that he is a piece of character. And Snake, in this case, this team is designed if you don't have Onloud, then we also have Onla Serpiente. If Hulk, because in this case, the client did not have Hulk Deads, that can also be for us. Serving quite well, Shuri, and here we have a new incorporation that is Wonk. And finally, another team that I have made is On La Serpiente, which is that basically these two tank almost all the classic Shuri Hulk Guanteleten, and we have put in the Kusala variant. So nothing, folks. Well, with this, I hope that it has helped you understand the Gauntlet a little better, to do it in a free-to-play way. And what I tell you, if you need help with this Gauntlet, you have my WhatsApp in the description, that we have pretty good offers for this Gauntlet. So friends, the fact that you like the video is that you are where you are, and see you in other videos. Bye-bye.